Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'll just give another minute or two for everyone to join. Okay, I think we'll get started. So, hi again, and welcome everybody to the XTM Connect series for Contentful CMS. And we'll have an overview of the Contentful connector today. So my name is Steve Marr. I'm the Solutions Architect here at XTM and a member of the expert teams. So just a few housekeeping rules first. Everybody is on mute for the duration of the presentation and demo. And we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards. Should take about 30 minutes altogether. There's a questions button in the GoToMeeting panel to add your questions, and we'll get to them at the end of the demo. So I guess for an introduction, the topic of this webinar is the Contentful CMS connector for XTM. Some of you may already be familiar with XTM as a translation management platform. But for those who are not, XTM is a cloud-based enterprise-level end-to-end TMS solution, which effectively allows users working in localization to operate and collaborate within the same tool. And it offers some powerful automation and integration capabilities. One of the integrations we're going to look at today, obviously, is the Contentful connector. So XTM is really a system that empowers project managers to set up their translation programs to their liking, taking benefit of all the automation the system provides, and for the users involved in the translation workflow and entire ecosystem. So I want to talk a little bit first about creating projects manually, which some of you have seen before. The idea of the connector is not to use manual project connection, but rather to create from the CMS itself. So XTM offers the ability for project managers to create projects in the system, upload source files for translation to a repository that's associated with translation memory, TM. In XTM's case, we call this a customer. That's where your projects arrive. So just think of this obviously as two systems connected. XTM is the destination system where your workflow takes over once your translation project is created there, be it through a connector or the manual process. So the manual process can be sped up, obviously, by the use of project templates, and our connectors also involve these project templates. So the actions of choosing your language pairs or combinations or workflows, file filters or content parsers, I guess, they're all tied into a template in XTM to speed this process up. But for today, obviously, we're going to talk about project creation through the connector and directly within the CMS itself. I also want to cover a little bit about connectors themselves. Like, I mean, there's two paradigms they can follow. I like to call one example a pull connector, where you might have seen it before, where you log into something akin to a middleware or a web application. So you log in there and the connector pulls the content management system. And you'll see any content within there that's surfaced for translation pulled into that area where you can select and send the content to XTM for translation. But in the case of Contentful, it's a slightly more powerful connector, where it's installed within the CMS itself. So what does that mean? I guess for content authors or your clients who are directly working in the CMS in their day-to-day activities of content creation that they need to have translated, they'll see our connector plugin directly within their environment and be able to select their content and send it to XTM for translation. So the projects will arrive in XTM once they've selected and sent them. So I'll just jump into the agenda briefly. So we're going to look at the admin panel. This is the first port of call, along with the installation of the app or the connector in the CMS itself. So the admin panel is key, and there you kind of set up the handshake between the two systems. Obviously, it utilizes the APIs in both systems. We'll look at that. We'll look a little bit at the Contentful setup as well. I mean, this is key always for any CMS system. Obviously, we have a suite of about 30 connectors, and setup in the beginning is key to meeting your expectations, use cases, and criteria for implementing a connector. So we'll look a little bit at Contentful's content model and content types. We'll do a round trip then as well of content, demo content, obviously, and touch a bit on continuous localization. After that, we'll follow up with questions and answers. We'll skip on to the next slide. So I'll also jump over to the actual admin panel itself. So again, as I was saying, this is where support initially will kick you off once you are in a testing mode for the connector when you're deciding to buy. We like to run now what's called POCs to ensure we're covering all your use cases. So an admin user, our support team will create it for you. I'll jump to the panel so you can see it and talk about the underlying setup. I think it's important to know. So admins can create users in this panel, and they're Contentful app or the connector users, and you can have a few of them. So they log in within the CMS and they can request translations through the connector. There's also a new feature in this connector. We have another release coming soon, but I hope it has more features that you want to see within this Contentful connector. Why I added here is because it's changed position from where it used to be, if you've seen the connector before. So I'll have a quick look at that too. And the installation of it, where you get it, authentication details, and how to grant access to the content types that you wish for translation. Again, this is important because it moved from where you might have seen it previously. So I will just jump straight into the admin panel and start from here, and then we'll move along. Okay, so this is what the admin panel looks like, and it's separate, obviously, from the two systems, but it's the underlying setup. This is my XTM user I'm logging in as. You'll be provided with your own one, your own username and password. This panel. Cool. So here are the users set up for us for our demo instance, and these users will access a demo environment in our XTM cloud platform, where we're going to send a sample translation or demonstration translation project through the connector to the platform. This is the settings that have moved. These used to be in the config area up here when I show you where to get the app and install it. It's already installed, obviously, in my demonstration Contentful environment. So for the admin panel, here's where the kind of the handshake between the two systems happens. So we'll edit this user. This is a colleague of mine, Ale. So this will be your Contentful user, and again, you can have multiple users in there. And I wanted to touch on that specifically because for project naming, we're trying to make this better, and I'm thinking it's coming in a future release of the connector as well. So what does that mean? Well, let's talk about the handshake first and then go into that further. So this user again will be for your client user within the CMS. And this user here will be the XTM user. So your project managers or anybody responsible for the workflow once it hits the target system, which is our system, XTM. This would have your clients or your company cloud URL pointing at your XTM instance, your company name or customer name directly in here, and the user there. So this would be the project manager that receives the projects on the XTM side. Again, really important because we can set XTM up with this project name prefix or the connector, if you will. So when a connector project is sent, it's prefixed with this. So if you have two users and you don't want the same name prefix currently, this is a workaround, if you will, or if this fits your use case better, it's something that could be looked into. So this also controls how long projects, once they're created from Contentful to XTM, how long they're going to be visible for within XTM. So these are all XTM specific. This would be the customer. You can have many customers, obviously, in your instance. This is where the connector projects will land. And this is for my colleagues. Ours will land in, this is my XTM demo instance here. So I'm using a demo user. This would be Ali if it was him. Again, I'm just using it for examples. Let's move back to the admin panel. So I hope that describes what the underlying handshake between the two systems are essentially. And the settings we will look at right now as well. This surfaces the spaces that would be in your Contentful environment. So if we look up to here, we have master space and there are other spaces that contain different content. We encourage you to have a test space set up. I think every real live client will have this so that we can test workflows before going into production. Again, it's really key and something that's encouraged. The connector can be installed in the different spaces as well. So you can have a connector for your test space or your master production space. And again, XTM demo is what we're pointing at here. Where these settings have moved, I'll look at the connector installation. I told you it's simple. If you don't have it, and once it's purchased or you're in our testing or POC phase, installation is simple. You'll search for our connector plugin and you will download and install it. And you used to have configuration options here. Currently, it's just the user login that you created from the admin panel. Some settings have moved. I also, while I have this screen displayed here, really encourage the usage of the Contentful connector app documentation. We put a lot of effort into improving the documentation. So we certainly, with just a click here, we can go to that. It also gives detail on releases or bug fixes too. Okay, so let's close this. So that's simply the installation of the connector app. Another thing to speak about, I'm just going to jump to quickly is because it's to do with the Contentful CMS configuration would be your locales. You have to make sure that all your locales are provided here and set up before using the connector. And then obviously we can map these to the XTM language codes as well. So this is how you enable your environment to be localization ready. Essentially, you can add locales if you have new markets you want to go into, and it's all quite simple. And again, it's Contentful setup itself. We'll look a little bit at the content model and content types before actually performing a round trip of demonstration content. Cool. So to describe the content model a little bit, again, your client content authors will be king for this. We have some test data in here. And if you're in a testing phase, we'd encourage real data that you plan on sending through the connector to XTM to cover all circumstances to make sure that all of your content is in fact enabled within the system to be localizable. We'll show you a few of these check buttons. This is just the demonstration content we have, or content models. And what we're trying to describe is real world data here, to obviously make your tests representative of something out there. So these are just cards we created, and they're representative of some content from a gaming website. We're going to look into these because I'm going to show you some of the functionality where we can pass. Contentful will actually have character limitations on certain fields for authors. So obviously you wouldn't want to, in English, move your overextend your characters and blow up the design of your content. So we have a way of passing that through. The connector successfully passes those character limitations also through to XTM, and the translator can see so they don't exceed those limitations. So we'll see that in an example of a demo project we're going to send. The other important thing is we're going to send a single content item. It's possible in two ways to send more content. And by the nature of Contentful, it's a headless CMS. The idea is to create content and content once. Obviously, it's a collaborative tool, and you'll have many authors within creating content. And one author might decide, okay, this piece is already created. I want it to be used essentially by something they're creating. So if we look at this content card, you can see that we've tried to make it representative of data within this website here. So you can include links to media. This won't be translated. And again, you can, via checkboxes here in the CMS, you can establish what is to be translated or not. For example, the intro could be used in another card as well. So you can set up a parent-child relationship essentially. And if you were to send, it's not set up currently here, but more real-world data is representative of it. Say in your client, as I said, in their website, you could send a card item that has all of these connected pieces in them with items that do require translation. So you won't be just sending one item, you'll be sending more based on the content tree. So I hope that kind of speaks to content models and types. I'm going to show you the connector directly now. We will jump into this item and we're going to connect to it. So this is where you see the actual connector app itself. As I told you, it's in the UI and it's where your clients will be working from when they're creating projects in real life. So we're going to use our connector credentials. And log in. Here's the panel now exposed to you. We're also going to look at a bit at the translation queue, because whoever creates a project within the system, one of the users, they can also see the progress of their items within this queue. So when we send real content now as part of the demo, you can open up and see in XTM, the connector exposes within the CMS system here, which step in the workflow your content is at. And again, that's just richer functionality, because once a project is sent, it's over to a project team in XTM where they have a bigger dashboard, if you will, to see where content's at. So we'll look a bit at the progress as well of each of these. And they're all related to the content items that you sent through the connector. So adding content, you can do it in a number of ways as well. We can be right here at the item level, as discussed earlier on. And you can also do it in another menu within this panel here. So I selected apps and XTM Connect. This gives us a fuller and bulk, if you will, method of sending content through the connector. So, and I have worked with real clients using the XTM connector where they've sent entire websites through the connector and receive them back from translation also. So you can see there's a whole pile of items in here. We can extend these up to 1,000. They could be selected at once and sent. The panel here, this is representative of where your project, when we send it, is going to land in XTM. And again, we configured that earlier, and you can also select different places for this to arrive. If you've communicated with your translation team or your providers, and you want your projects to go elsewhere. These are examples of templates, project templates, where, again, the pre-agreed workflow will kick off and your project will go into real translation for edit review, however your workflow is set up. And again, your file filters and combinations. We're going to touch a bit on continuous projects again. So we'll do it from the other panel. But if you have created content or a project in XTM through the connector and you've forgotten an item that you haven't sent, or you have an update to be sent, you can search through active projects here for that item and add that content to translation within the project that's already created in XTM. So we'll jump back out to our statistics. So if I quickly go back to the model, I wanted to show you that within Contentful, this was set up with a character limitation on it in Contentful, and we want to see that transferred to our project in XTM as well, and see how the translators get highlighted of a breach of if their translation exceeds that limit, it is carried over within the connector. So I'll go back to the content model, search for unit, and we can find that in the statistics. This again, as I told you, there are check buttons in here. If you are sending projects and you do not see the content, it means it's not being configured within Contentful itself. If we edit one of these items, you can see where the character count limit has been enabled on it, so 15 characters, and also it is enabled for localization. So again, it's hugely important to make sure your content is being surfaced for the connector to pick up. So all of these items, there are field type short text. I know there's other field types, of course, and we account for them all with more text within them. So let's go and create a project through the connector. So I'm going to select, if I move down further here. So this panel is the connector embedded in the Contentful CMS. These are Contentful options down here. And you can see the languages. This is, of course, useful for the authors or somebody who's selecting content within the system. So we can change this. We can add all of the locales that are available to them, and then you will see right in here all of those locales present. I want to keep it kind of neat for the moment, and I'm going to select a new language to send for translation. We'll give Polish here and save that. Now you can see Polish here. The title hasn't been enabled for translation. This title is not enabled in our other settings. But as you can see, all the ticks beside hit points, melee attack, etc. This is an example of the project I created earlier, and I did it on purpose to return. The translator doesn't fix the issue and it returns Contentful. This is what the creator user will see. And of course, we don't want this. So we're going to show you sending in this project and how it looks in XTM itself. So the connector in action, essentially. Let's try Polish here, and we're going to send for translation. Polish has been sent before, so we have the functionality here to create a new project in XTM or update a project that already has received this content. In this case, we're going to create a new, or else we'll look at the update option afterwards. So I've just created that a second, and we're going to go to our XTM platform and wait for this to come through the connector. Usually takes a minute or two. Okay, so it's just created there. So, I mean, it's the truest example of what the connector is for. I didn't create the project manually in the UI. It came straight through from the Contentful CMS itself. And it's landed to the project manager we set up. And we also have our workflow here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the workflow to also show you the translation queue. Again, it's a nice piece of functionality to see in the connector. So here's an example of the queue right now. You can see Polish was sent. I should have opened it before where only French was present, but we can get an idea of as to where this is in the workflow. The workflow hasn't started, so the step is not updated. And we're going to show that again in real time, which is pretty cool for anybody who's sending a rush job and needs their translation back straight away. Where is it? What's happening? The connector updates in real time as the project is moved through the workflow. So, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the workflow and assign users to it. It should be assigned via the template, but I didn't hook that up. So demo linguist, and we can save. And I'm going to start the workflow, and you can see that then reflected within the within the connector in the CMS. Could just move it on to the next step in the workflow. But let's go back to show where this updates. And it gives a percentage bar. If we have time, I will also not fully complete a project where you can see it's at 90%. Just wait for this to update. And we can open the project in the workbench. So here's the exact example that I was trying to show you. Is we have warnings here on character limitations. They've been exceeded. So we'll fix a couple of these and move them on through the workflow and see them returned without a complaint from the content management system itself. Set all these to complete. Make sure this is moved on to the next step in the workflow. So it's now at the correct one step. I'm going to see if our item is updated here. Yes, it's just waiting. We should see a percentage bar here. Let's refresh the item. So the progress has updated. I just needed to refresh it. And it's gone past the translation one step, which if I wasn't so rushed to move to, you would have seen translate one on the first step. but I moved it quite quickly through the workflow. So this is quite useful functionality for real projects you would have. And I never refreshed the queue. That's also another action I should have taken, but these things happen on live webinars. So we'll complete it and return the content here, and we'll want to see Polish translations return. French is also selected. I might just deselect that for cleanliness. French from what we can see. And refresh it. Sweet Polish here. Okay, go back to the connector. In progress, correct step 1. That's perfect. And I'm just going to complete the workflow here. It's updating. Let's return and refresh the queue. You can complete the job. And we can see it's finished. I finished it in the workflow. So all of this is automatic. And again, pretty powerful functionality for the connector itself. So we know this is finished and Polish should be populating back in. I'm going to close the project in XTM because this is the trigger for the content to be sent back. There's also an import selection here. We could pull this back, say if you have multiple files as a part of a project and you want the finished file back. This is exactly how you do that. You don't have to wait for the project to finish. So again, pretty cool functionality. If you have 200 files in there, you need 2 back very quickly. We can pull them back in this manner. So let's complete the project. It's already finished. We're actually okay. I want to see the translations update here. Page. So it can take a few minutes to update in real time before the Polish translations come back. Let me close the project. I never did that. And then we'll look at continuous localization as well. Go to finish project. And we're still waiting. Demoitis. Perhaps there is another Polish item already in flight. There is. So let's just move on to continuous localization. I mean, this is an example of French I sent right before the demo, but I could have used the same content item that's still in flight out there. Now there's the Polish updating in front of your eyes. It just took a few minutes. And as you saw on the workbench, there was 2 items I fixed up the top. They're not complete, but they're within the character limitation rate, so they sit fine in Contentful. And the ones I didn't fix have come back, and there's a complaint in Contentful. So it's a really good example of how character limits can be employed. So we're going to go and move on to sending a continuous project. Going to make a change to this specific item type. When my project's finished, I want it to be in a project that's open. So let me create a new project again and then update it just to show an example of continuous localization. Let's use Korean. And we're going to send this item again, but for translation in Korean. And we should see the project create in XTM. I'm just going to check for questions as well. I don't see any. Okay, so the Korean project has just arrived in the system, and let's go and send some more content to this. Use it as a continuous project, essentially. And you will see the name change here. Again, I think it will become a multi-file project. Again, there's some unhappiness about how a project is renamed, and we're looking at it for future refreshes of the connector. Hope people are happy to hear that. So let me go back to our platform and add to this project and get the full project name. So we have an _4 here. Let's pick a different content item. Let's send the intro to it. So it was Korean was the target language. Now, can I see? We'll choose the last one that was created here and send this for translation also. So when this happens as well, the project itself goes into it reanalyzes essentially. Let's give it some time. Okay, so you see the source files have updated from 1 to 2, and the word count has increased. So we've successfully sent content to a project that was already created. And let's view that in the workbench, or we can even view the project details. So now we have 2 files here, and it's been reanalyzed. So when we complete those, they will also flow back into the content management system. Cool. And as I said, the project name has changed. I mean, in some people's worlds, it's okay. Some people's, it's not ideal. Again, it's something we're absolutely looking at for you. So we open the project. And here you can see my first piece of content I sent was the statistics, and the second was the intro. So I'm going to complete this project, and we'll see the Korean MT steps flow back into Contentful. finish the project. And we'll return to Contentful itself. We want to add Korean. Korean is viewable down here. And again, it's going to take some minutes for those characters to return, or translations rather. Look at the translation queue to see that it's complete. It is finished. I didn't complete it through the whole workflow, so this progress is representative, but we can see they're both finished. Cool, I think I can open up to Q&A now as I wait for that to flow back into the system. And I hope I've captured use cases for you for the Contentful connector. Again, connectors are not a silver bullet. When everything is configured correctly in both the CMS, they do their job really well. I'm going to check for questions here before I wrap up. I'd really like this content to come back, but as you saw, Polish took a couple of minutes. I really want this to populate back before I close out. I don't see any questions in the go-to meeting. While I'm waiting, I'll bring up another use case that I've been asked quite a bit. So it would be to include the page URLs, or the site URLs with content that you send. In other cases, we've had clients that would set up a preview server. I know that's not always possible, and have preview links delivered separately to the translation parties. I think we'll be looking into being able to deliver a URL through the connector, but that functionality isn't available right now, unfortunately. I'll do one more refresh and see do we get the Korean. Okay, I'll give you back the last 15 minutes of your day. Rest assured this content will flow back in here. I don't see any questions in the questions box, but thanks a million for your attendance, everybody. And I look forward to presenting the next version of this connector as well. I hope you found this useful. Thanks a million, everybody.